All right, welcome everybody. Come on and sit down. And Jim, if you could come turn the sound off on here. Welcome. Everybody find a seat. How you doing? Is it? It's still coming out of there. Mm-hmm. Can you mute it? No. There you go. Oh. Okay, technical difficulties. All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Michelle Dexter. I'm the president of the Elmaden Valley Community Association. And I really just want to take a moment to thank you all for joining us here in person tonight. We are really glad to be able to continue doing hybrid, and we always have a pretty healthy Zoom audience, anywhere from 20 to 50 people on Zoom. We have a board member tonight who's homesick with the flu, so she's on Zoom. So we're grateful to have this technology set up, but we're really, really pleased to have each of you showing up here every month. We have so many people that come every month. Sometimes we've had 50, 60, 100 people here. So we just appreciate that you're here in the room with us. Let's see. One of the things, I don't know if you've kind of been aware, but we try to provide quality information about both sides of current issues. We try to provide you access to leaders, information, but we don't advocate for issues. So if you hear something, because we try to go deep into topics, if you hear something that you feel passionate about, we have the District 10 Leadership Coalition has working groups, and you can talk with them about potentially advocating for the different things that you want. And Vasundra, who handles all of our hospitality, Vasundra, raise your hand. Vasundra, she's our hospitality chair. She's also the president or the chair of the District 10 Leadership Coalition. So you can talk with her about working groups if you feel passionate about something and want to do something about that. But thank you all for being here every month. We appreciate that. So tonight we will hear from Councilmember Casey, followed by a discussion of the critics' view of the coming elimination of natural gas appliances. And then next month in March, we will have the proponents' view of
the ban. Now, as a reminder, or for those who are new, during our Q&A sessions, it'll be really important for everyone to use microphones. One, because we have a Zoom audience that needs to be able to hear you. And two, because this building is designed in such a way it doesn't matter how loud you try to be. If you're over there, these people cannot hear you and vice versa. So we really appreciate that. And so how we handle that is if you'll raise your hand when you have a question, we have a number system and we'll pass out numbers. And that allows us to, of course, take numbers in order, questions in order of numbers, but it also allows us to get the microphone over to you so that we have time and can facilitate that. So thank you for your cooperation on that. So now go ahead and please join me in welcoming Councilmember Casey.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, AVCA board. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. I'll be brief. There's not much to update. Well, there is something topical you folks may have heard right now in terms of what's going on with the potential closure of two of our elementary schools here in District 10, Simons and Williams Elementary. Unfortunately, there's some confusion as to what role the city council plays in these decisions. It would be just like the city of Cupertino making a decision and me trying to opine on it or being critical of it. I don't have a say as a city council member. The school board and the school district make these decisions. But I would encourage any of you that are upset or concerned to make the February 10th meeting at the school district on Lenzen Boulevard. It's on my website and we've sent out a few reminders of that. This topic that you guys are discussing actually sort of came before us on the city council with the reach codes. I was vehemently opposed to it. I'm on the critic side of this gas ban. I think it should be up to each individual to decide whether or not they want to use gas or not. I'll leave it at that. And then we are in a budget crisis right now in terms of the city, between 50 and 65 million deficit. We're in the process right now. The mayor will come out with his mayor's budget proposal, but we're working through it right now to try and find ways to cut and find additional funds. So in terms of finances, it's a bit bleak. It's worse than it was last year. We were also in a deficit. Hate to throw that gloom and doom news on you, but we'll open up the floor if there's any other questions you folks might have before I pass it on. Mr. Ohio. Yes, sir. Oh, here.
Just okay. So with Mayor Matt jumping into the governor's race now, that's obviously going to impact. I mean, he's going to be spending so much time on that campaign. So how is the city going to deal with that or adjust to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the mayor, as we all know, works really hard, has a large staff. He's been at every meeting thus far. We anticipate him being here. Selfishly, I'm for him running for governor because I think he'd be a great governor. I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to discuss that. And I also think it's important to have him in Sacramento for us here in San Jose, having a direct line to Sacramento with the individual that's intimately aware of the issues we're dealing with here in San Jose. Just an example, Prop 36, getting the funding we need for that. I think having a common sense, data-focused governor will pay us back in dividends. So to answer your question, though, things have been moving well. He's a organized guy. He's very familiar with all of our issues. Like I said, he's been to all of our meetings. I don't anticipate there being much upheaval, but you know, it's going to be a challenge. But I still, even though there may be some pain for us in terms of meetings and whatnot, I still am excited and happy he's in the race.
I was just wondering, before the school district makes a decision on which schools to close, are they in any preliminary discussions with the city to determine what the land use might be afterwards? Because that's always an issue, whether you sell it, lease it, what type of use it can be.
Yeah, so we've got actually 2 former school sites here in District 10 that are undergoing that transition right now into housing. One is at Blossom Hill in Camden, the Cinnabar project. It's going to be rough over 100 townhomes that are going to be developed. And the other is over by Santa Teresa High School, formerly the Glider Elementary. There's going to be 80 single-family homes. Again, the school districts own that land, and it's within their right to develop that land or to sell it off, however they may choose. We do have a public, quasi-public process where we do weigh in terms of land use. So there will be an interaction with the city in terms of what we'd like to see them put there. So it's a challenge. But to be charitable to the school district side, they are hemorrhaging right now money, and these school sites are an opportunity for them to recoup some of that money. The challenge is, though, what happens if in the future we get a bunch of kids here now? I think one of the things we're going to need to do is reimagine what a modern school looks like in an urban setting, even a suburban setting. I think a lot of these schools, when they were built, there's a lot of farmland around here, so you may not need 10-acre size schools. You look in San Francisco, New York City, and some of your more congested cities, the school's footprint isn't necessarily that big, so we're probably going to be a lot more efficient with the size of our schools. But there will be an interaction with the city to determine what's not necessarily allowable or what we'd like to see, but it is a private property, and based on the zoning, they're allowed to do whatever they within their right. Yes, sir.
As far as the gas goes, I've lived in my house nearly 50 years, and everything in my house is gas. And I'm interested in how rigid is that gas rule? Do I have to replace everything in my home, or as it breaks, I have to replace it?
Yeah, my understanding have to replace. Yeah, it's my understanding that every new development and every time you change something out, you would have to change it into gas. Or I'm sorry, electric, sorry. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to right now, if something passed, retrofit everything into electric. It would be as things break down and as you need to fix something.
So, is there a plateau where eventually, in say 5 years or 7 years, I will have to change over, or there is no plateau like that?
It's my understanding that you're godfathered in until you need to redo it, until you need to replace it. Yeah. Once you have to replace it, then you have to replace it with electric. But until then, it's my understanding you're godfathered in. Grandfather. Yeah, godfather. It's been a long day. Yeah. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
I'm a grandfather, not a godfather.
All right. And did you have a question, sir? Is it yours?
No, I think I'm good to go. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other question? Uh-oh. Two here? Oh, there. Hey.
So I have about 20 amps unused on my service line. And I think a gas water heater is electric water heater is going to be about 40. If my gas furnace conks out, that'll probably be about 40. So, what's the solution for those of us who are out of amps, which is pretty much every house in my neighborhood? And then also, I don't think PG&E is ready to give all of us a bigger service line. So what do we do with that?
That's a great question. It's one of the reasons why I didn't support it and don't support it. I don't know that our grid could even support if all of us go electric, and particularly with the cars that we're being asked to go electric with. So I share your frustration. I don't have an answer for you, but that's one of the reasons. I don't think it's a clearly thought through idea. I think it's a lot of virtue signaling. Sounds good, but in the practical reality is a lot of us are going to be negatively impacted. Yeah. Politically, you mean the decision to move forward with it? I'm stealing Gary's thunder. Yeah, he's going to address a lot of and David Heidel's thunder. Yes, ma'am.
How does this law or proposed law affect people now using propane?
Gary, you going to address that? It doesn't. Okay.
Maintain propane.
Yeah.
Can I move to a different topic?
Of course.
Because I love this one.
Yeah.
But we're having a lot of issues with the sewer backups and flooding and failure in the Shadowbrook neighborhood from that. And we've had about 9 houses that have backed up into the home and to where they have had to redo the sewer line. And we've had 311 emergency out digging in the streets.
Yeah.
It's coming up through the through the water areas from that. I saw on the excellent summary of what the city council was doing and what was going on in the city, that there is a water company project that looked like it was looking at sewer lines, but not for Elmaden Valley. What do you suggest? Because I think we are at critical mass.
Yeah.
This is happening weekly, and it's a terrible thing to happen. So maybe we can plan for the transition from gas to the other,
Yeah.
but this is failure of the city infrastructure. And I don't know if it's on the radar. I don't know if the project that is going on is helping, or if
Yeah.
it's even that the water company is working infrastructure, but I don't know what.
Yeah, Lydia,
Can
I don't
you
know.
find out?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's going to be something I have to research and find out. I don't have an answer for you offhand, but I will. So Shadowbrook neighborhood, I know where you stay. Is it your immediate area or the neighborhood, the Shadowbrook neighborhood?
It's the Shadowbrook 1 neighborhood
Okay.
that is having the issue, but I believe it is broader than that because I have seen it on Camden. I have seen it even going up into Cambria within the area, but it's it really has become quite a problem from that to where we're having trucks out there and they're trying, but the lines have just collapsed. They've got tree roots in them. They've been crushed. We had the electrical upgrade issue that dug up a lot of the street with a lot of big equipment.
Mhm.
And the water company working on Camden, just right down the street from here, up to Elmaden Expressway. I'm wondering if that isn't having an impact on the surrounding neighborhoods, but it looks like we could be having, I mean, there's nothing like sewer water bubbling up in your washing machine
Yeah.
and your bathroom.
Yeah.
Or in your street and flooding the street, and you're walking through it and you're going, what's that smell? And you're thinking it's just rainwater,
Right.
and it's not.
So I wonder, let's talk offline. And
Okay.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. Yes, sir. Speeding in residential neighborhoods is what he brought up. I've said this 100 times. Some of you folks may have heard me say it. Santa Teresa Boulevard, Almond Expressway at times is like the Autobahn with the speeding that we hear and go by. I think it's a function of us no longer having as many police officers that are visible. So we don't have the visible deterrence we once had. We need more police officers, specifically motorcycle officers out on the streets giving tickets. Until that happens, I think we're going to suffer through a lot of this. I know a lot of neighborhoods are trying to get, and this is Dave Hindell taught me this a while back, humps, lumps, and bumps in the streets to sort of slow folks down. Those are expensive. It's a long process, and I don't think it's going to solve overall the problem. It may help one street here or there, but we do have an issue, and the only way I think we're going to modify folks' behaviors is start giving them tickets. So I would encourage you guys all to be supportive of our police officers and encourage folks to come out to the academy. We've got roughly 100 positions we still need to fill. This is, for me, a lack of police officer problem.
Howdy. Say, rumor has it that they're going to be closing Simon's School.
Yeah, we touched on that. So my sister's a teacher at Simon's. So this is obviously going to impact her. It's not clear that Simons or Williams will close. It's one of the current options. There are a number of schools that they're considering. So as I've mentioned, I think folks, if you're really concerned, go to the February 10th, this next Tuesday meeting at the school district where tomorrow. Jeez. Yeah, tomorrow downtown off the Alameda, or not downtown, the Rose Garden, where they'll discuss it. Yeah, but we as city council members don't have anything to do with the process.
Okay. Tomorrow, whereabouts?
Tomorrow on Lenzen, is it 855 Lenzen Drive? Is this? Yeah, I forget the George, not the Burt George Winery. It's off the Alameda, but it's the San Jose Unified School District office. Any more questions for me? All right. Well, you guys are in store for a great show. Gary's got something exciting, controversial. And yeah, and I'm on the critics side. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, council member. Appreciate you. Let's thank him very much. All right, so now I'm going to turn the microphone over to our program lead, our vice president of AVCA, and tonight's speaker, Gary Hector.
Even get the slideshow up. I want to welcome everybody as well. You're going to find out tonight, this is a bit unusual for us. We normally go out, get speakers, we bring them in, we have somebody in favor and somebody against. I spent December trying to get people to come here and have a debate. I talked to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, which is actually now the Bay Area Air District, or BAD. And they said, sure, I'll come in February. And then I talked to the people over at the realtors who have been opposed to this, and they said, not on your life. We are never going to go up on the stand with those people again because they don't tell the truth. So I was unable to get a debate going. And then 2 weeks ago, the Bay Area Air District staff called and said, we misread our calendar. We have a conflict in February, so we'd like to come in March. And we accommodated them. And so in March, you will hear from people who are very much in favor of banning all natural gas water heaters and furnaces. And now you're going to get as much ammunition as I can give you to understand the opposition and what the opponents have been saying. The first question, and it may sound kind of silly, is who are these people? Why, how did they create this ban? So we're talking about a Bay Area Air Quality District. They cover 9 counties. They are unelected. The people who sit on the board are elected someplace else. They are supervisors, city council people, whatever. There are 24 of them. And so we will never get the opportunity to vote for them directly. They're kind of insulated. The representatives we have on the board are our supervisor, Margaret Abby Koga, our elected. Give me a new slide. I forgot. I'm supposed to say new slide. Keep going. I missed 2. All right. You can tell I don't do this very often. So anyway, there's a list of the other people. Supervisor Otto Lee, Palo Alto Vice Mayor Vicky Vinker, and Sunnyvale Councilwoman Linda Sell, who I believe just got appointed to the board. A key thing to notice at this point is there is only one of 35 air districts in the state of California who is aggressively restricting the sale and replacement of natural gas, water heaters, and furnaces. 1 out of 35, it's ours. Aren't we lucky? Next slide. So you were asking before about what the rules actually do. Next slide. Let me just double check, see what my notes say. BAD's rules will not force you to take your appliances out and replace them. However, when your water heater or your furnace fails, you will need to replace it, and they're looking for you to replace it with a zero emission option, which they think the best is an electric heat pump. We'll get into that a little bit. The electric water heaters that they have in furnaces are extremely expensive to operate. The electric heat pump options that they're talking about actually are cheap, and they believe that they will save you money on a regular basis unless PG&E keeps raising the electric rates, in which case, you know, all bets are off. So here are the specific rules. January 1st, 2027 is the date when you will no longer be able to buy or supposedly install a natural gas water heater. In 2029, you will no longer be able to buy or install a natural gas furnace. In 2031, the no buy, no replace moves up to larger gas water heaters that are used in multifamily units and probably by churches, etc. Next slide. California is the epicenter of restrictions on natural gas appliances. Next slide. It all started in 2019 in Berkeley when they passed the first ever ban on new connections of natural gas to any construction. This sparked a wave of copycats all over the state of California. There were some 70 California municipalities, counties, whatever, who passed similar bans. These were focused on new buildings, and they basically said you will no longer be able to connect natural gas pipeline to any new construction. So the goal here was truly zero NOx, no gas, no appliances of any kind. We're not there anymore. It's changed slightly. We'll get to that. The immediate response from particularly restaurant owners was this can't stand. They sued Berkeley, and the California Restaurant Association versus Berkeley was the major case. It struck down their rule in 2023 when the Ninth Circuit ruled in their favor. After the court denied the rehearing in 2024, all the municipalities started looking for an alternative way to achieve the same thing, and they tried to come up with a new rationale. Next slide. The debate continues, and when I started this process, I thought it's all locked in. There's no chance. We won't be able to change anything. It's done. And what's happening is that the debate is continuing, and there are people on both sides. In June, two important steps were taken. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District threatened any municipality or air district in the state of California that if they banned natural gas, the United States government would come after them and sue them. A day later, in Los Angeles, the South Coast Air Quality Management District voted down a ban similar to what BAD has in place by a 7-5 vote. In December, we had two more important steps. The BAD staff presented their concepts paper to the BAD board, and the concept paper basically is a look at ways they could relax the restrictions that they're putting in place so people could actually live with them. And we'll get to some of the details of that in a little bit, but it basically says they are not locked in. They are not going to force this. They're willing to look at alternatives. Trouble is, the alternatives they want to look at are not necessarily what we would like. The other step that happened in December, which is kind of worrisome, is that the California Air Resources Board decided to put their foot in, and they proposed a statewide ban beginning in 2030 that will have the same effect as the Bay Area Air District ban. So if they step up, then we got a whole different level of debate. The final thing that happened is that in January, the Department of Justice did follow through on their threat, and Morgan Hill and Petaluma were slapped with lawsuits for the bans that they have on natural gas appliances. So we're kind of in this position where we think we know what's going to happen next, but with the federal government suing the municipalities and these modifications coming up, we may have some room to go convince people that we voted for that there are better ways to do this. Next slide. Although it's not my job to talk about the benefits, I want to give a brief overview of why they've put these bans in place. Essentially, every ban that's been put in place since 2019 has said the same thing. They want to get NOx out of the house, nitrogen oxides, which contribute to asthma, pulmonary, and also help create pollution. The pollution results in higher health costs. The higher health costs can only be offset if we do away with the pollution. Next slide. And what do the critics say? Looking specifically at BAD's rules, critics say that the health benefits are overstated, the costs are dramatically understated, and NOx, due to appliances, is so small that it will not make an important difference. Next slide. How far behind are they? Okay. I'm not good at this. Okay. So anyway, you did hear that. We already went over this. There's some points underneath which I did not mention. So let's go to the next slide. We can always come back to any of this. So this was a big one for me because I thought that if you were going to ban appliances in the home, that you would be reducing the essential pollution inside the house. Next slide. The answer is you won't. The appliances that they have decided to ban do not really contribute to indoor levels of nitrogen oxide. The biggest source of NOx in the house is gas stoves. And guess what? They're not touched. Gas dryers are not touched, gas ovens are not touched, and gas fireplaces are not touched. So clearly, the goal is not to reduce or eliminate NOx inside. There's another objective. Furnaces and water heaters vent outside, and scientific studies that the critics have cited and others have cited show that there is no observable increase in NOx as a result of furnaces and gas water heaters. Next slide. Now we get into the confusing part for me. NOx is not the real problem in most studies of healthcare. NOx is a catalyst that mixes with other particles in the atmosphere to create what they call particulate matter less than 2.5 microns, or PM 2.5. PM 2.5 is so small that about 30 particulates can be laid side by side on a single human hair. This is extremely tiny stuff. They are so small that they act like a gas, and as a result, they reach deep into your lungs. So they are the things that create really the health problems that they're talking about. The chain that gets us there is appliances emit NOx, NOx gets vented outside the house. NOx then interacts with other chemicals in the atmosphere to create PM 2.5. Back it up. There we go. I threw myself off. Scientists describe this process of NOx creating 2.5, PM 2.5 as being highly variable and nonlinear, which makes forecasting the effects on healthcare extraordinarily hard. Making things even more complicated, a study I just saw from the Journal of Science today says that NOx, when it's released into the atmosphere, scrubs the air of methane. It interacts with methane and it reduces the amount of methane pollution that is in the air. So if you reduce NOx, you increase methane. And I just, how confusing is this going to get? PM 2.5 is linked to health issues, but critics will point out that there's a debate on PM 2.5 as to whether it is causation or correlation. They see it, but the health issue could have been as a result of something else. Once you go through this step by step by step, you add a lot of uncertainty to all of the forecasts that BAD has put together saying there's X amount of healthcare problems. Next slide. When critics try to untangle these forecasts, they go back to the basic point that emissions from household appliances just don't contribute that much NOx to the atmosphere. The California Air Resources Board, which is planning to ban natural gas appliances, says that they represent 8% of total NOx emissions in the state. Next slide. The real culprits in the production of NOx are outside the home. Transportation is the dominant source of NOx emissions in California, yet the rule by BAD does nothing to address diesel trucks or buses, which produce far more NOx than home appliances. Next slide. If you shift your attention to PM 2.5, then the thing that jumps out at you is wildfire smoke. It is by far the largest contributor of PM 2.5 to our atmosphere of anything that we face. PM 2.5 from a single major fire will exceed years of the PM 2.5 linked to NOx. Next slide. And now we get down to the question of cost. BAAD has no power to levy taxes, but they can put in place regulations that force us to spend money. Next slide. These are real world estimates from the critics of what it's going to cost you to respond to the requirements. Heat pump water heater, heat pump HVAC system, electrical panel upgrades, wiring and circuit upgrades. Older homes are going to be a problem because your panel is probably not going to be large enough to support more electrical equipment. You're going to have to upgrade it. And if you look at your wiring, it may not be capable of supporting electric appliance this kind. Yeah. Next. Hidden away in these discussions are details that don't get much debate. An example is the space required for your new efficient appliances. Heat pump water heaters require 1,000 cubic feet in order to function properly. That is 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. That is the size of your spare bedroom. If you've got a garage and that's where you keep your hot water heater, you're fine. If, however, like a lot of us, you've got a closet someplace and you got your hot water heater in the closet, gonna have to expand the old house a little bit. or kick out one of the kids so that you've got room. A really interesting question, which gets down to where are we going as a state, is I don't know how you can put one of these inexpensive heat pump hot water heaters in an ADU. And I have been listening to the state tell me that our housing problems are going to be solved by all of us putting little tiny houses in our backyard so that people will have someplace to live. If you got to have a heat pump, it's going to be, you know, next slide. This is the group of people who are going to be bearing the cost of this. One thing we're thinking about is that nonprofits in particular, like churches, often operate in older buildings and they have limited budgets. So they're going to face real cash crunches as they try and figure out how they're going to continue to heat any of their buildings. Next slide. I think I've already answered this question, but let's look at some numbers. We multiply. I think it could be my finger kept turning it off. So my fault. You take the number of houses, take the electrification costs, and easily you get to $10 billion. The most outrageous estimates, which include perhaps spending money on the grid, spending money to increase the size of your house so you can have your water heater. Those are now around $100 billion. My response to the $100 billion number is, yeah, it sounds large and it's probably controversial. But as residents of California, we know the state has the ability to exceed any wild projection of what it's going to cost to do anything. So the $100 billion number is we won't go with trillion yet. Next slide. Next month, you're going to hear bad talk about the societal benefits of these bans. What that basically means is that they have run calculations which show that there will be lower health costs and that there will be better quality of life and benefits from fewer premature deaths. And they come up with this number, which is $400 to $890 million a year. And I don't have any clue how they got there. And the critics have asked them for more information, and they're just serious questions. We need to understand what it is that this calculation represents and whether or not those values will ever be realized. The other thing to keep in mind is they're looking 20 years down the road. This projection of societal benefits is after all of the houses in the Bay Area are all electric. Next slide. When you look at the numbers that I just talked about, the societal benefits, it boils down largely to being able to eliminate 37 to 85 premature deaths. I looked for a definition of premature death on the website of BAAD. I couldn't find it. The normal definition is an individual who does not make it to a normal lifespan, and those numbers tend to be 70 to 75 years of age. So basically, there is a calculation that you can make which says anybody who doesn't make it to 70 or 75 years may fall into this group that died prematurely because of pollution in the Bay Area. If you look at the percentage numbers for this, you're spending $100 billion to reduce 0.0005% of the population may be dying early. That's not a great benefit analysis. And when you look at the alternatives, you could be spending money on wildfire mitigation, diesel truck reduction, or providing health care that these folks could get more easily and less expensively. Maybe a better way to spend the $100 billion. Next slide. Takes a while. And just keep going, 2 more slides. I skipped over these 2 because the Bay Area Air District has been listening to critics, and they have put together a concept paper. I put a link to the concept paper in the discussion of this event where it was posted on Facebook, and I'll try to post that link as well elsewhere. You can read their concepts paper, which talks about some ways they might be able to relax the rules. One thing they're serious about is delaying compliance for small natural gas water heaters until 2031. If you look at the reason why they're willing to do that, it's because there's not a single heat pump water heater being sold in the United States of 35 gallons or less. So they're a little ahead of the industry. They are talking about allowing exemptions for homes requiring major electrical work. They're talking about exempting small businesses. They're talking about exempting low-income home owners. They're talking about allowing emergency replacements. So if your water heater should go out and you can't get a 35-gallon heat pump water heater, they would allow you to go to Santa Cruz, buy one, and bring it back. And they're also talking about allowing ultra low NOx gas appliances as a transitional installation for a period of time. With that, I am done, and we can have a discussion. You can tell me what your experiences have been, and I will try to answer any questions that you have. Thank you. I promised David Heindel that I would do something, and I got so excited about finishing. David is going to step up. He is, AVCA does not do activism. We do not attempt to solicit people to go talk to people. Everything you heard tonight was just ammunition for you. But David, he likes to get people riled up, and he likes to get them to be active.
Thank you very much, Gary. So Gary and I worked on this a little bit together, and there were a couple of slides at the end that didn't make it. And I prepared 3 of them because I didn't want to print out so many. And if this is of interest to you, you can take a picture of it. And it has the names of the 4 members of the 24 members of the BAD, great name, right? BAD. How'd they come up with that? And an email address. It also explains who's the chair, the vice chair. The interesting thing is this group, as Gary said, people just get on it. And I talked with somebody who was trying to get on it, and they don't know how somebody gets on it. And it seems to be some sort of secret process. And they just, a fellow named Sergio Lopez, who was the mayor of Campbell, just left January 1st. And this new person, Linda Sell from Sunnyvale, just appeared on January 22nd. And nobody knows the process, if there is any, of how this person gets on. And there's no time frame when they go off. They'll have a term, but the terms don't seem to end particularly. Like their term ends and then they just stay on. So it's a very confusing group. I also have a list of all 24 of them. Of the 24 that are there now, actually I'm off, yeah. 12 of them were not there on March of 2023 when this was voted in. So there's an opportunity in my mind as an advocate, which I am, for those of you who do not agree that this is a good idea, for the Bay Area to get ahead of the state and do this ahead of everybody else for a start, to say nothing for what Gary presented, to actually contact these people and say, hi, I don't think you should do this. Or I think you should have another look at it and have the 12 new people vote on it, because such things as artificial intelligence, the electrical requirements of that, all the things that Gary explained today, where it doesn't seem like this, in my opinion anyway, is a fully formed idea. And I also included a little possible message at the bottom, and I'll just leave it on the table. And if you want to take a picture of it, I got 3 of them, and that'll give you a lot more information about how bad really is. All right. I know a lot about this issue. No question, seeing none, I'll. Yes, sir.
All right. I've been in my house, like I said earlier, almost 50 years. And all along, the water company said, you have to put smaller shower head, reducers so the flow would stop. So I did that. I replumbed my house with copper pipe. So I got rid of the lead pipes. I put solar panels on my house 17 years ago. I was one of the first ones in the neighborhood. And I put dual pane windows in about 35 years ago. I did everything. Redid my roof from wood shake. I went to steel with epoxy on it. That's really insulated, I think R29 or something. I mean, I've been trying to be an advocate to reduce all the costs and pollution and all that stuff. I went from a hot water heater, 50-gallon, to a tankless hot water heater, and it saved me a ton of money on gas bills. I tried doing everything with electricity. I tried doing everything with the water, with the gas. And now I'm being forced into a totally, asinine program that somebody thought in their tiny little head that it's going to benefit everybody. But I don't believe that. My question is, how do we get somebody to listen to what we have to say?
So just to answer your question, Gary hates me because I talked too much. I have to tell you, I've dealt with politicians for 35 years. If the general public, you out there, talk to them, they hear it. If an advocacy group shows up and says, hi, well, we're in the business of advocating, but general citizens like you talk to those people, they hear you more than you can imagine because they think of you as their voters. So I urge you to contact them, use my words or use somebody else.
All right, what David said, and please come back on March 9th and ask the same question of the staff from the Bay Area Air District. Ask them that question. I object. How do I get to talk to somebody who can make a decision?
Gary, are your slides available somewhere?
I don't think I can lend my iPad out. So yes, I should be able to post them. I'm going to take a look at we recently inadvertently created a blog on the AVCA sj.org website, and I will see if I can post them to the blog there. I also will look and see if I can post them to Facebook. So if you like them, I'll do my best to share.
So we're a group called the District 10 Leadership Coalition. We will post them on our website too. So you just type in San Jose District 10 Leadership Coalition, you'll find us.
We have a Zoom question.
One Zoom lady wants to ask if any of you could clarify if propane is okay, given these limitations.
I was asked that question before the meeting, and so I double checked. And the Bay Area Air District, in its infinite wisdom, does not consider propane to be an issue.
I have question number 2. So do you know who funds this Bay Area group? And who is the one who picks who gets to be on it? And do they get any funding from any companies for their office? Or I'm trying to follow the money trail here because there's always a money trail that usually can answer why they're really doing this.
So there's a ton of these organizations that are state generated by the state legislature. Air quality, even our water districts, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, they're all set up that way. And frankly, I don't know how they get their money, but they got a nice staff up there in a big old office.
Do you know how much funding they get?
I don't know. I've looked at their site and I didn't even actually look at that. But I will say this, for whatever it's worth, this is a 9 Bay Area thing going on. I've had some contacts with a group called the Bay Area Council, which is based in San Francisco, which is a business group that's 9 county area wide. And they are working to try to get this looked at again by the bad group again. The realtors are working throughout the Bay Area on this also. And Gary didn't mention this, but a senator, I think, from the peninsula wrote a bill a year ago that said that the realtors have to have a disclosure starting January 1st of this year, last month, saying that, hi, this is coming. And they have to alert all potential buyers of homes that they're going to be in this mix starting on the dates that Gary talked about. I don't know whether, but they're funded, I think, probably through the state or some sort of fund. I don't really know.
Bring that question next month, please, about the bad funding, and ask it next month when they're here. Ask it of the source. Next question's here.
Well, it's a commentary, and I don't want to repeat what you just said, but we as realtors, I've been a broker since 1980, as of January 1st, are required by the Department of Real Estate to disclose this whole minutia of what's going on. Whether the concept letter passes, whether we get it changed or not, doesn't matter. We have to tell a potential buyer, you could be exposed to $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 worth of extra fees. And what do you think that buyer is going to do with his offer writing on your property? He's going to take that into consideration. So the unintended consequences is going to affect real estate transactions pretty substantially. And nobody seems to know that yet. It only happens when you go to list your house and we as a realtor say, oh, by the way, did you know that you have to tell a potential buyer this? So good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Number 4. Number 4. Oh. Here.
Hi. So if I understand you correctly, this group of 24 people are making a decision that impacts all of these other people on this thing. And they're affecting everybody in California or just our area?
So BAAD is a 9 county district that is very similar to ABAG. It was an idea that we got shared problems, we ought to cooperate. And yes, they have made a decision for those 9 counties.
Okay, so given that, my question is, and I sort of buy your argument that this is a bad thing, but I don't agree with all the reasons that you propose. Why don't they go through and just stop the NOxs from trucks? Why don't they stop the NOxs from the real problems that you pointed out on your slide? You said these are the real bad actors. So why don't they go after that and stop worrying about water heaters and, little stuff?
Yeah, you can. That's a really good question to ask the staff from BAAD who will be here next month. You have to keep in mind that if they have limited powers, So they're looking for someplace where they can basically be the point of the spear in making change that they feel is good. And in identifying different opportunities, this is the one that they felt they could accomplish back in
Well,
2023.
if it's the health thing, their argument's also flawed, because if you really are interested in changing the air quality and saving people from asthma and things like that, then there are federal regulations that have recently been changed from 3 parts per million to 15 parts per million that would make a much larger difference. So why don't we focus on the bigger problems instead of this little stuff? That's my thought.
We have a Zoom question.
Yes, a lady has posted the following, which may be of interest. On Wednesday, February 11th, the Bay Area Air Quality Control District Committee on Stationary Sources will meet at 10 a.m. You can watch live or on Zoom. They allow speaking, or you can go to one of their remote sites. I have to move this. The closest of which sorry, the interface here is awful for left-handers.
While Mike looks for that,
Second.
the stationary committee that he is referring to is the group that came up with the concept of the ban. They are the people who deal with non-transportation, natural gas appliance kind of stuff. And they also are the group that has put together the concept paper looking at possible relaxation of the rules.
The closest one is the Santa Clara County offices at West Heading, 10th floor conference room. County Supervisor Otto Lee will be there at that location, and links to the agenda presentation report on the first page of www.baaqmd.gov.
Thank you.
So anyway, that might be an interesting meeting where they will probably be discussing this subject. I have not been able to get an agenda for that meeting yet. The meeting was posted, but you really don't know what they're going to talk about until they post the agenda. That comes 72 hours beforehand, so it's probably up now, but I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Question 5.
Are there any people or specific groups analyzing the template that of gentle persuasion and or lawsuits that the restaurateurs exerted to obtain a lack of this ban covering their appliances, stoves, ovens, etc.?
So at this point, there are two issues. One is that what Berkeley did was to get in the way of federal control of the sources of power for appliances, and the federal government said, can't do that. So right now, there are lawsuits which are being brought on any municipality, county, other agency that is using the same rationale. We're not going to let anybody have any natural gas to their houses at all. Federal government is looking to sue on that. If you are now in the second group, which is the air district air pollution issue, they managed to find a loophole. And so basically, because they are in charge of pollution, they've kind of moved off into this area where the rationale, where the federal government has not yet seen anybody to stop them. The restaurant people stopped being interested once they got their stoves approved. So they don't really care that much anymore. So it'll be interesting to see if somebody else steps up, but I'm not aware of anything.
Next question here. Gary, thanks for the presentation this evening. Very informative. And thanks for standing in for your no-show guest.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Question that I had was I think you had a slide on the costs to actually outfit a home to change from gas to go to electric. I don't think I saw it on your slide, but one of the other costs that is a very real cost in both money and time is the PG&E interface to actually upgrade a panel. And I did that successfully about 20 years ago to upgrade 100 amp to a 200 amp service. It was relatively straightforward in terms of the engineering. It's just a straight line to the sidewalk to my meter. So it was pretty straightforward, still pricey, but it took about 12 months to go through the process to get that done. And I just heard that it's much longer now, and I knew that. And if the connection is more complex, that involves a transformer change out 2 houses down, the cost is going to be astronomical. And that's borne by the applicant seeking the upgrade. So the thing is, this isn't really thought out that way. Going back to what Councilmember Casey said at the beginning, the city has a $20 to $35 million deficit right now, but everyone else has their own financial problems right now. There are going to be plenty of stories out there of people that cannot afford to do this, no matter what the best intentions are, to save the world with this inconsequential action. That's my own opinion there. Right. So I just wanted to point that out. There's that cost with PG&E that from what I even remember hearing on Nextdoor very recently from someone that is going through a 3-year process to upgrade their panel. I don't know how this is going to work. And realistically, I think it's not going to work because it's not really fully thought out, and it's more based on political ideology than it is into practical engineering of how to actually do this. That's my.
So
it's actually not a question, but more of a.
It's great.
statement.
It's exactly, there was a point on one of the slides that I skipped over, which was from the critics. And they basically were saying, not only is it going to be difficult to do this, but because you're making everybody do it, you're going to have a line that there are not going to be enough electrical contractors. PG&E is not going to be responsive. So you're going to drag it out for years. It's going to cost that much more money. And it's kind of foolish to put this in place. But I skipped over that slide because I was losing my voice.
And we're going to take a question from Zoom.
This is actually my question. We may remember that, Gary, in your research, has there been any reason for the gas ban to be due to the climate change impacts of methane leaking from lines and stuff? And I think it was a year or two ago, maybe longer, when we had PG&E here talking about the electrical issues and the systems they had to shut off the electricity during wildfire or potential wildfire issues, that this question came up, and they mentioned that there are aging gas lines that they anticipate being not worth trying to maintain. And so they were thinking that sometime in the future, they would have programs that would force people off of gas, not because of any benefit to climate, but it would have a climate benefit. But because I think it's pretty well known that a large part of the methane emissions that are dangerous for climate purposes come from leaking gas lines. Although the bigger lines, of course, are more dangerous than the other ones.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on climate change, and I know that in the beginning, these bans were somehow framed as being about climate change, but the discussion that I found was all about nitrogen oxide, and doing away with that because of the health benefits. Admittedly, in the beginning, there was something about climate change, but as for PG&E and their gas lines, We also had another PG&E guy show up and I asked him exactly that question. Do you want to get out of the natural gas business? And he said PG&E does not want to get out of the natural gas business. So there will be costs either way.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Um, uh, I'm just gonna bring up some of my own personal erudition on this subject. And I believe I don't know dates, but I do know what did happen. And does anybody remember the Chico fire that it got out of hand with the high wind and it just destroyed Chico basically and Paradise too, yeah. And the cause of that fire was a transformer that was on private property, and PG&E knew that this transformer was bad, tried to get in and repair it, but the owner of the property would not allow PG&E to go in and repair it. And consequently, this transformer blew up at the wrong time and caused this huge fire. And the byproduct of that, if I remember, is the state pretty much forced PG&E to go bankrupt at that point. And that's what happened. PG&E went bankrupt. And I can remember a PG&E spokesperson coming to my house explaining exactly what happened on that particular situation. And just making me aware that PG&E was going bankrupt and that the state was going to come in and take over, certain aspects of PG&E. So I think if you guys just look at your PG&E bill now, you'll see that PG&E is responsible for all the lines. In other words, they're responsible for the power lines, they're responsible for plumbing, they're responsible for that. And then the state gets the gravy, which is they supply the power. They don't produce it, they don't make it, they just supply it. And being a person that lives in a small home, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, I raised my 2 sons and a family there. Before this Chico fire, or even after it for several years, my highest electric bill was about $150 during the winter, because we had such a small house, we kept our heater down, etc. And now I live there by myself, and that same bill in the winter is almost $300. And this is all just my erudition, but it seems to me that ever since the state forced PG&E to go bankrupt, and then they took over the gravy, which is supplying the power, not producing it, not doing any of that, that the cost of that power has just gone astronomical.
We do have a chart on our Facebook page that is created by the Energy Institute at Haas, and it shows the difference between the average price of energy in the nation and the average price of energy from PG&E. And you see the average price for the country going this way, and the average price for PG&E goes this way. And we had a panel here, which Mike was referencing a year ago, 2 years ago, and they basically said that the reason that the costs have gone up is because of the way we regulate power in our state. So it was an interesting discussion.
Number 8.
Yes. So my neighbor has pointed out a good concern about, the difficulty of getting a power line upgrade. I'm the one who, I have about 20 amps left, not ready for another big electric appliance. I think that, so there's that issue, and, the authority seems just fine with just kicking us and just saying, well, it's your problem, not mine. I'm just saying you can't do it the easy way. But I think there is a bigger issue that, you know, the wires under Shadowbrook, and I think that's a lot of us around here, are failing on hot summer evenings. When all of us turn our AC on at the same time, some transformer bursts into flames next to the sidewalk, or something just fails. It's no coincidence that peak demand is when our grid breaks. It tells me that the grid is at its limit, and the power supplied in my neighborhood is like a twin engine jet airplane. There's the gas engine and there's the electric engine. And if they just want to take one of those away, good luck crossing the ocean, right? I just think that you know, we're going to get into this situation where I even heard of this issue 10 years ago when people were starting to get electric cars. You want to get a service line upgrade and they say, oh, sorry, on your street, we're tapped out. All those amps have to add up, right? I can only have my breakers are, the electrician won't put in more breakers than my service line allows, and PG&E won't put in more service line sizes than their cables allow. And so I think that this BAAD should be challenged to figure out how much electricity is available and not decree that we draw more electricity than PG&E has buried under my street.
Yet another good question for next month. Please keep them posed.
Dan, they have a solution for that. They're going to put basically a governor on them and you're not going to be able to use your toaster and your microwave at the same time, or your dishwasher and your washing machine. So the idea is that you'll be restricted on how many appliances in your house you can use at the same time. That's part of their thought process on this. They got a solution.
By the way, BAD has discussed this in their concept papers. They are aware of these sorts of issues. They just haven't, they're going to decide sometime this year what to do about it. So good time for you to come back and also to send Margaret AVCA a note or talk to one of the other reps.
Okay, real quick, all our roads pretty much are asphalt, and asphalt leaches the NOx in the air, just like burning. And if you look at California, the roads, we have the most roads of any state in the country. So that's a big part of our problem. And that's due to Chevron up the street over in Pittsburgh area, all those companies. Anyway, so we have to look at what's really causing the biggest numbers.
I think that's one of the biggest questions that I came away with, which is, okay, you guys are well motivated, maybe, you know, you want to change the world, you want to make the world a better place, you've got this prediction, but when I look at their analysis and the things they focused on and the explanations they've given, I just come away with more questions.
Hi there. So I think this gentleman touched on it a little bit, but basically if you're selling your home and you have an older home and you need a whole new electrical panel, new electrical upgrade, etc., it's not only just the cost of that, but then it's also going to be a delay because you'd probably have to get a permit for it, and that's going to cause a whole bunch of problems too for the sellers. So I don't know how that's going to be resolved either.
David has a solution for that, which is you drive to Santa Cruz or Stockton and you get a natural gas appliance.
Perfect.
And you
Perfect. We'll
replace
do
it.
that.
And I want you to say, I do not condone that whatsoever.
That was David Williams who suggested that. I don't know what David Williams, but it's not me.
Hi, I have just a comment and then a couple of quick questions. But what I wanted to say is, you know, I went through, you know, my wife and I, we did a whole home remodel a few years ago. And so we already had solar panels and a storage battery. So it made sense for us to go all electric appliances. So I do have some experience with the electrical appliances. We have no gas anymore. We have all electric. And yeah, it doesn't come without some little problems and things like that, but it's easier to do when you're doing a remodel, obviously. But yeah, you did run into some costs, and the heat pump water heater that we put in failed completely after about 1 year. And then the company did honor the warranty for replacement, but not the labor. So we did have to pay for the labor to put in a new one. And that one's worked fine. Same exact model. And that one's worked fine for a couple of years. So I guess we just got a lemon the first time. Anyway, I know a really good local small solar company. They do great work. They're great to work with. They just put in a system at one of my son's houses recently. And I invited them to come and speak at the March meeting, just in case people are interested in going electric or going solar, adding storage, battery. They're much better to work with than the large companies. Avoid those, I'm telling you. But these guys are really good. And if they come, I told them to contact you. And if they do show up, don't yell and scream at them. They're not necessarily taking a position on this, but they can give you some useful information if you are interested in going electric. And, you know, I think one of the problems is they really, the bad board, they have not communicated this to people adequately at all. And as a result, there's a lot of misinformation flying around, a lot of panic and stuff. So anytime you can get some accurate information, it's good. You go on Nextdoor and you see all kinds of stuff flying around. Anyway, a couple of quick questions, and somebody kind of touched on it. What is PG&E's position on this, or are they taking a position or kind of staying out of the conversation?
Not something that I researched. As I said, we've had a couple of PG&E people here. I did ask specifically one of them, are you guys, we actually had them in to talk about the gas ban, and the guy was in charge of implementing the gas ban. And I said, would you prefer not to implement this? And he said, as a company, we would prefer this go away. So the non-official position of PG&E is that they are in part a natural gas company and they're happy to continue providing natural gas. What the official position is, don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that one benefit to an individual homeowner, if they go all electric, I mean, we're saving a ton of money not paying, because the gas bill was getting higher and higher and higher all the time. So we are saving some money there, but yeah, it's a big investment up front. Another question that Gail wanted to ask here is, so you mentioned that in Southern California, this, you know, they managed to not do this. Is it just because they didn't have the votes on the board, or was there some public pressure that the board kind of?
So I'll let David answer this in part, but there were a number of things going on with the South District, whatever they are, in LA. There were threatened lawsuits in addition to.
So Gary mentioned it. It's called the Central District of the United States federal court system. And the attorney for the Central District, which is Los Angeles, believe it or not, wrote a letter to the local group down there and said, basically, don't do this or we will sue you. And so shortly thereafter, the next day, the group voted 7-5 not to do it. And there's a acting similar person up here in San Francisco, but that person has not written such a letter to the bad guys.
We have a question coming in from Zoom. I have one question, though, one point I want to raise, if I may. As we go to alternate sources of energy in the countrywide, be it nuclear, nanonuclear, micronuclear, or geothermal, or photovoltaic, or wind, how are those sources of energy going to get into residential properties? Just a point to raise. I'm not asking you to answer that question. I'm just saying this, all the focus has been on health problems, but this issue of how do we get the alternate energy sources large scale into residential properties?
The one I get most excited about is the small nuclear reactors, which will be put in the middle of a city and they will power the entire city. And you will drive in on a truck with a nuclear reactor in the back of the truck and you will drop it off and the city will be fully powered. So that, I think that's a great idea.
But how does the power go then from that source to individual homes?
They're going to take over the electrical lines that everybody uses. The
Okay, so-
grid will be used for that, but in a local area, you don't have to get tied into the rest of the grid. You could just power everything.
Yeah.
That's where we're going. They basically, because the techno guys decided they needed some way to power AI. So they started realizing how much power they needed and they started investing in new, smaller nuclear power plants.
But electrical grid-based distribution of energy is in our future. It's going to be more critical in our future, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, we all drive electrical cars, have electrical appliances and light our houses with electricity. Yeah.
Okay. Question from Zoom?
One lady has this as an opinion that is, or a statement that's pretty interesting. This change to electrification isn't officially referred to as a ban, since that would go against federal regulations. But if a standard is set that no current gas appliance can meet, then it is indeed a ban. Changes to standards need to be implemented that can actually be met by some current gas appliances. I think we'd all agree to that. The other question we have is it possible that this type of measure could be put to a ballot? Person asked about the November election. I'm sure it's too late to be on the November ballot, but are there any efforts to put a measure, I guess we would say either for or against such gas appliance limitations to a statewide vote?
So that to me strikes me as a fascinating question because it's only for the Bay Area. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you would get a vote of the 9 Bay Area counties unless BAD has the authority to get a vote, or maybe ABAG. But yeah, and if you want to get a statewide ballot proposition, the number of signatures that you need to get something on takes about 2 years. So we wouldn't be looking at anything for this year, but maybe, the next presidential election, 2028.
I don't know the answer, but there's a move afoot right now, and I think it should be on the November ballot of a 9 Bay Area county parcel tax, sales tax, something tax to fund transit. And my recollection is that was put on, but the state legislature had to pass a law to allow MTC and ABAG to put that on the ballot. So this group, BAD, is similar kind of an organization. So it may be a similar route, but I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would have to get the state legislator and the governor to pass a law to allow them to have a vote.
The next question's right here.
Is the government or our schools exempt from these bans? And if not, are taxpayers expected to pay for the exorbitant costs of complying with the new rules?
I'm not sure I'm going to invite you again. That's a tough question. Yeah, I don't know the answer. I would assume that. No, I'm not going to assume. I'm just going to stop right there. I do not know the answer. That is an excellent question, and I will go back and do my research and see if I can find an answer.
What about the health hazards and cost to people who lose their heat and water when the electricity grid fails and we have premature deaths?
Yeah, I think probably a good thing to ask the folks from BAD. I grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains and we lost our power 1 week out of the year, and we had wood fires to keep us warm, and it was not particularly pleasant. if we get into a period where our grid is unstable and we have power going out for a week at a time, it's a really nice idea to be able to warm the house with natural gas. And if you're all electric, you know, hopefully you have a fireplace.
Yeah, my question is, the real estate industry, we've known about this since it's been on the books, like almost 2 years now. And it's now just starting to kind of get ahead. And it's like, we've been talking about this and been concerned about it for 18 months to 24 months. We've had electricians in. These numbers are very conservative, very conservative. Everybody in here, your price everyone will be different depending on what you have in your property. The thing that I'm really kind of wondering is, it seems like, is there any group that has come forward to say, we're going to put a lawsuit and a stop to this right now? This is not going any further. We're not going to let them discuss putting it off to the 231. We're going to put a lawsuit to this right now and let the people decide whether we're able to do this and wanting to do this. I'm not totally against electrification. I'm against pushing it to people that may not want it. If you want it, if it was coming out to say, hey, this is what we're offering for anybody who wants to do this, and for new construction, we'd like you to do this, do it. But the fact that they're mandating it and putting pressure on people like this, I'm just surprised there hasn't been somebody that stepped up and said, we're stopping this right now before it gets any further. Have you heard anything about that?
Go ahead. Well, as I mentioned, there's a group called the Bay Area Council, which is a 9 Bay Area group. It's a business group based in San Francisco, and I know they're looking at this issue, and I don't have an update. I actually asked the guy the other day what their thinking is now. I haven't talked to him since before Christmas, but the realtors, your realtors, Gina has created a website called toocostlybayarea.com. So that if you want more information about that, I know she was working with the other realtor groups in Alameda and the other counties. And so there is that group that's at play now, but I won't be filing a lawsuit myself, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. Thank you. Yeah. Give me your wallet and your credit cards, and maybe I'll think about it.
We have a question against the wall here.
So you mentioned living without your appliance for a while, and it raised this really important question. Does BAAD have some standard for how long they should expect you to live without a water heater, or how long they should expect you to live without a furnace? And also, do they consider it reasonable to have me take out my air conditioner so there's electric room for a furnace?
So the last one I can't answer. The first one, I can only say that the concepts paper deals directly with that question of an emergency. And they basically realized there were going to be some situations where somebody was going to lose their water heater or their furnace, and they weren't going to be able to replace it with a natural gas appliance, and then they weren't going to be able to get a heat pump in. And so they are looking at allowing people to have replacements that are only for an emergency period. And they actually have talked about setting up something where you can lease them so that you get to put in an emergency appliance because yours went out, but they know that you have it, and they kind of are only going to let you have it for so long, and then you have to put in the new electric one. So
I think that's the end of our questions for the evening. Oops, we do have one more Zoom question, and then we'll be wrapping things up. And let's not forget that next month, we're going to have some good sources of answers to some of our questions. Go ahead, Mike.
One of our Zoom people has posted this in answer to an earlier question. Schools will be expected to comply, but their deadlines are after the single-family homes and the multifamily homes. And yes, taxpayers will pay school expenses, although materials from the air districts suggest that there will be grants from the feds or the states or the MTC, all of which, of course, are funded by taxpayers.
So just to wrap it up, the first thing I thought about when this thing was non-affordable housing projects. If their water heater goes out under this, because I don't think you can have an occupied unit without hot water or heat. And so I was going, all of these nonprofit affordable housing projects will have to send their tenants elsewhere. And that's the one that I just went, are you kidding me? So I think what they're doing now is they're just kind of like going backwards, right? We're trying to find, but I don't know where this goes, but thank you all for coming tonight. And you should come in a month and ask these guys, because all you did was ask questions of us that are really for them.
I also want to extend my thanks. Thank you all for sticking around. Next month, we will have the folks from BAAD. And if everything goes well, at our April meeting, we will have the current mayor of the city of San Jose talking about his budget. So we invite you to come back second Monday of the month and join us and ask all kinds of good questions like you did tonight. Thank you.